All right, after having Mike being very mean to everybody, even involving Pat, we're going to be doing another podcast. Who is my lovely people joining me?
Mike.
And Travis.
Okay, and so our topic of the day is single player versus multiplayer games. Very relevant topic in the gaming sphere nowadays, obviously because so many people are cranking out multiplayer games, and not many people are really focusing on single player games, so I feel like it's a good topic to talk about. And who wants to start before I go with my random crap?
I guess I can start. I mean, I think there's an obvious reason why there's more multiplayer stuff today. I think it's just because with the internet and all that stuff, it just makes more sense. And on top of that, if you really think about it from a monetary perspective, there's a lot more money in it doing multiplayer games because that's where you get the play to win stuff. It's a lot harder to put that stuff. Yeah, like League of Legends, any game really. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is obviously a major culprit because it's easy to get away with that. Because in single player games, you can kind of do it to say, oh, for a few dollars you don't have to grind as much, but it's a lot harder. I've never bought anything in a single player game before because I've just never felt the need to because I feel like it's almost like cheating at a certain point. But in multiplayer games, there's a lot more money there. So I think those are the two big factors as to why companies are moving more toward multiplayer stuff.
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of the big things is one of the terms that's being thrown around nowadays, especially late 2017, kind of early 2018, is the whole games as a service kind of model. But yeah. I feel like the game industry, I mean, you guys can... I'm sure you guys will have opinions on this as well. It seems to be the game industry is very trendy when it comes to a lot of this. This is how I kind of saw the rhythm games before, Fortnite and PUBG. And I just feel like they're going to go the same way with these. They're going to saturate the market, and then they're going to realize that these companies are just fighting for the same people when it comes to these multiplayer games. I mean, so many, at least from what I'm seeing right now, I'm seeing a lot of these games move to that kind of games as a service model where you keep people playing, and instead of releasing multiple games and multiple different kind of stories or gameplay things, you just consistently keep updating it, and you just keep the servers going. But one of the things that I find an issue with that as well is when the servers go down, the game becomes not even a useful thing anymore. Because it happened with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, I think it was, or Tony Hawk Underground 5, I forget which one it was, but they shut down the servers, and then they put the game on sale, and so basically the game was an empty shell that you couldn't even use anymore because there wasn't any servers for it. Right. So I feel like, yes, I'm with you, Mike. There's definitely more money in the games as a service kind of model, but it kind of makes the game have no real, what's the right word, value, I guess. Especially after a while. What do you think about that? I
mean, the question is, do they care?
They don't care.
That's the problem, right? Is we can say it sucks, and it does suck. I feel like almost objectively it's a bad way to do it, but game developers don't care because they shut it down partially because they release the next game and then you have to buy the next game. That's what NBA does. After a few years, they start to shut down the servers on their older NBA games, so then you can't play those anymore. So even if you want to play those online, you can't. You have to upgrade to the next level and then the next one. So that's kind of how they get you. So online almost has that extra advantage where we just say, all right, you know what, we're going to turn our servers off. Now you have to get the next game in the system, And I feel like that's really bad.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a cheap way to keep people playing too. But I mean, hey, what is it called? I think I've heard it referred to as the pump and dump model. You see it with local restaurants and whatnot too, where people build up an actual really good product or whatever, or something that they're really proud of, and then after a while, once they get a good backing, a bigger company comes in, kind of uses it and abuses it for a little while, and then once it stops making a lot of money for them, then they just kind of leave it. So yeah, they don't really care because they're going to use it up, and that's what I think is going to happen with all the saturation in the kind of marketplace, and then or they're going to saturate the actual games, and then after a while, it's just well, what? There's nowhere else to go. For rhythm games, I remember what happened was Guitar Hero and DDR, really fun games and all. And after a while, it's just, there's nothing else. You got to the point where Rock Band innovated with some plastic instruments with a microphone and a drum set. That's awesome. Then afterwards, and you had DJ Hero and whatnot, then they had to try to switch up the guitar and whatnot. And I don't think Rock Band and Guitar Hero are relevant at all anymore just because of that. And it's really sad to see because especially if with at least nowadays when this is happening, if they actually completely embrace the games as a service model, nobody's going to have time for all these games. They're going to choose one and stick to it. In my mind, it kind of has more of an MMO feel, if anything, which is not a bad thing at all, but it's a completely different style of game that I felt like console games were different, and it was good that they were different because of it. now you can't really tell the difference between them. And I feel like that's kind of hurting them to an extent. Especially when it comes to like multiplayer games versus like a single player game and that kind of aspect.
Right.
Are we talking about like games on the console specifically, or games like League of Legends and like CSGO that have been, kind of taking over the Twitch realm for quite some time now, and like also the esports scene, because obviously the money is at esports because League of Legends is freaking huge, and I can guarantee you no one gives two shits about the lore that they give you on each character. You just play because these characters are fun, and then after a while I get burnt out of it. But I mean, other people play hours and hours and hours on end. I don't even want to say how many hours my friend Robbie has on League of Legends.
Well, I feel like it's kind of both, because it's just, I feel like one of the things that was really good about console games versus kind of the other games that are out there, whether it is something like League of Legends or whether it is something I don't know, like World of Warcraft, other kind of, I guess, PC games, what distinguished the two was really kind of like the online interactions and whatnot. But it seems like they keep trying to push people to the MMO kind of market for like a multiplayer kind of game. And because of that, I mean, we all love single player games, at least that's what I've kind of understood about us. And that's kind of being left in the dust because it's not making as much money. But if everybody does that, it's going to open up basically a whole emptiness of just games that need to be developed as like a single player market. So if everybody does that too, like if you're going to be playing World of Warcraft, you're not going to be playing like 3 other games alongside of that you're going to invest at the same amount of time. You're going to want to have like shorter games along the side with it. So I feel like it's not a very long-term plan for the game industry. That's why I feel like this games as a service thing, as much as they think it's going to be a quick solution, I feel like it's just not going to work for the long term. That's just what I think.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on how they maintain it, because like I know it's completely unfair to like expect all of the game industries to like keep up every single game that they have online. Like if I go back and play Call of Duty 4, I don't expect it to, just because it'd be so expensive to keep all of these servers up. And then like, why would you keep the Call of Duty 4 server up when there's only like 50 people out of like the thousands and millions of people that play Call of Duty actually like play it? But then like, how long do you keep it on versus moving on to the next thing? Because like obviously Call of Duty 4 is ancient at this point. But like, I don't know, because like I used to be completely addicted to Call of Duty online play, and then it just fizzled out, and I still have no interest in going back to it. Even as much as I liked World War II, I played the campaign, thought it was great. I played Zombies with CJ and Cody quite a bit, but it's just whenever I go online, it's always the same crap. It's always this person found this camping spot. You have to like get really creative to get around it, and then it's just at that point it's just dumb, because if you want to be good, you just have to camp, and it's stupid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, at least from what I'm saying is like I know what you're saying there, Travis, and yes, it does take a lot of money to keep it up, but I'm saying that I'm thinking that what game developers are going for is that this is going to be not like keeping up all the servers, but they're going to have like 1 or 2 big games that they're just going to keep updating like forever, and that's just going to be the end all be all solution, because they're going to try to keep those people playing and try to make their money that way. But the issue with that is that these games who are trying to invest almost all of your time, you can't play more than one of those at a time. So they're going to, like, if you're going to have a game like that, you're going to be investing in one of those games, and they're all going to be fighting for the same audience, and it's probably going to be a lot smaller than they realize. That's what I think is going to happen, and because of that, there's going to be a huge shift for more indie games wanting to be developed, because you're going to want to take breaks from those games. I mean, like, there's a lot of games out there. Not every game can keep your attention for like 50 to 75 hours. You're going to want to play a break every now and then for like a little side experience. Like, it was perfect when I was playing Breath of the Wild and then Celeste. It was perfect for me. But that's just what I'm saying, like, I don't think it's just going to be the easy solution that game developers are thinking it's going to be now. I think it's just a trend for this whole games as a service model, because we saw it before also with like renting games, I feel like. So I feel like it's just going to adapt afterwards in just a couple of years. But yeah, what do you think, Mike? I mean, that's a lot of crap that I just kind of threw out there.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's tough. Well, because I was also thinking about what Travis was saying too, as far as like the servers and stuff goes. A part of me feels like, well, because I want to mention this really quickly. Modern Warfare, I feel like gets an exception also because it has the couch multiplayer where you can do split screen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when games have that, I think the servers don't matter as much because you're right, it is expensive. But then to talk about what you're mentioning, Nick, I feel like that's not just a multiplayer thing. That's, I feel like that's single player and multiplayer because with DLC and stuff, I feel like companies are constantly keeping games updated and stuff. And I feel like that's a blessing and a curse, because now all of a sudden a game, you beat it, but they can keep putting stuff in it to keep the game entertaining and unique for a year or so. So I feel like in some ways that's kind of a good thing,
Yeah.
So it all depends kind of on what angle you're looking at it. Because again, it's also a curse because there's so many other things on the market that you don't want to just stay addicted to one game. But then I also feel like that's up to you, the gamer, like you decide, okay, I want to take a break from this and go to something else. I feel like it's hard to say that that's a bad thing because you're willingly choosing, oh, there's an update, I want to go back and play it. You can just say, no, I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to settle for something else. So it's, it's all about perspective, I feel like.
Okay, I could see it. More as like a double-edged sword too, it is really dependent on who you are. I feel like single-player games, at least the ones that I feel like we grew up with playing, kind of fits like an older kind of style of game playing, I guess. I mean, it really does kind of fit you can play it as like a one and done kind of thing. Like, I recently finished at Final Fantasy X. Most likely I'm not going to play Final Fantasy X again for a pretty long time afterwards, versus a game like, I would say, say Smash Bros. Or Mario Kart, where they're constantly getting people online and playing just over and over and over again, because, hey, it's just a fun game to play. It really is. It has some good competition as well. And you can play with your friends as well, which is a lot of things that's good for it. Like, I'm not saying multiplayer games are really bad, but I'm saying that the way that certain companies can do multiplayer can make it seem like it's a short-term solution, I guess, was what I was trying to get at. But yes, it is definitely a double-edged sword, because I do like certain DLCs, and I think if DLC's done right, it can be really awesome. Yeah. But yeah, in my mind, I feel like these multiplayer games that are coming out, they really are most dependent on like Wi-Fi connections and like the servers. And as long as people keep playing, they're basically going to be endless. I mean, the only thing that'll stop these games from actually making money is if people just don't play them. Right. So, like, honestly, there could be like an indie game out there, I don't know, like some obscure indie game that had no advertising and whatnot, and nobody's playing it, nobody would know it existed. You can have a game in like a couple of years where everybody used to play, that's like a big online game now, and that nobody's playing, but everybody knew of its existence and like the legacy for it. So I think that's like there's just a huge difference there when it comes to single and multiplayer games in that aspect.
It's true. I mean, hey, look at Final Fantasy XI, MMO game that came out in 2002. It's 2018, and they're still updating it, and there's still plenty of people online that are playing it on Steam and stuff. So yeah, it's true. I feel like if you run a multiplayer server right, the games can go on for decades. I mean, this one's almost at its 20-year anniversary, so,
World of Warcraft is still booming. And God knows how old that is.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they constantly update it and, like, put new things in it, so it always brings them back. Because, like, that's what CJ was saying. He's like, yeah, I'll play it when it gets a big update. I'll get all the cool new stuff, and then I'll stop playing it for a little bit, and then they update it again, and it's just an endless cycle of, in and out and binge playing it.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a weird thing, though. Maybe it just doesn't fit my style of playing games. I kind of don't want the game to actually need to have that for me to continue playing it. I feel like if it's a good enough game, you'll still want to play it, or at least maybe replay it in a way, without having to have that as an incentive to keep playing. But that, again, is very dependent on who you are.
Something like World of Warcraft, like, obviously you'll get to a point where you have the most legendary sword, you have the best armor, so it'd be like, you need to have something new, because, like, that's how I am with Diablo. Like, I love that game, I have put so many hours into it, but, like, I only start playing again when a new season comes out, because I'm like, maybe there's going to be, because like Necromancer, when that DLC came out, I actually like started playing it a lot again, because there was a new character, there was a new part, like a new chapter in the campaign. But otherwise, it's just, you're going in, you're going to be a badass dude just slaying demons left and right, and then at the end of the day, you did the exact same thing you did yesterday. You just got like something that's slightly better now.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean,
I was going to say, that's the difference between multiplayer and single player is, and you can use Twitch, as sort of evidence. The top Twitch games are always either multiplayer games or brand new releases.
Yep.
Because with the multiplayer games, their lifespan is longer. Because, like you mentioned, there's not a single player game out there that can keep you entertained for 16 years. It's just impossible without you taking breaks.
Unless you use like Legend of Zelda, where they do randomizers, and or like Link to the Past, where they try to find speedruns in different categories for that. But even that is like, I guess you're gonna run out of categories.
Yeah,
right.
Outside of speedruns where you're like practicing for like a goal, there's really no one that would do that. But multiplayer games can, and that's why on Twitch you see like the famous ones are like League of Legends, which came out about 10 years ago, CSGO, which came out forever ago. But outside of that, all the single player games are new releases. You don't really see like Wind Waker at the top or Resident Evil, except for speedrunners. But all the top games are like, games that recently just came out, like Breath of the Wild, which has been starting to go down on the list too, and Mario Odyssey and stuff. So single player games I feel like are more short term, whereas multiplayer games sort of have the long term. And I think that's why I feel like there's a lot less incredible multiplayer games out there, like MMOs, because they're so long lasting that World of Warcraft came out like 15 years ago, yet if you make a game today, you still have to compete against that. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, so, and that tells more about how amazing of a game that World of Warcraft is.
Right.
Yeah,
and
Blizzard does really well at what they do.
Yeah, as much as people hate to admit it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially when it comes to, like, if you're trying to bridge the gap too, if you, like, many games try to, like, blend, like, the single player and multiplayer aspect, but no matter what happens there always is a heavier focus on one of those. And then there's certain games, like, so I feel like Call of Duty is like that as well. There's certain people that I know, like, never touch the campaign, but the multiplayer they're on constantly. Like, one of them seems to always be an afterthought. Like, they have a different goal in mind, whether it's single or multiplayer, whether they're trying to design the game for. And then you have games like Overwatch, who says, screw single player, everything's going to be multiplayer. We're not even going to give you that option to have a campaign in it.
And that's the sole reason why Halo 4 doesn't exist to me. Because they solely focused on multiplayer. They half-assed, if even half-assed, the campainame.
They quarter-assed it.
This is not Halo. No.
Well,
this is not my precious.
Exactly.
When we made our like most disappointing games list, there's actually a game I was kind of thinking about mentioning, but I never did, called Homefront. For that very same reason, because that game had such a beautiful story of like people that were suffering in battle. It showed a lot more of like the citizen side, because then the whole story is like Korea unites to take over America and they kind of win the war. And so we see people in here that are like suffering and like families getting torn apart. But the campaign was so short because they wanted to focus on the multiplayer that it easily could have been one of the best shooter campaigns I've ever played. But they just half-assed it, and it didn't turn out to be as incredible as it is. And it could have been awesome because the little bit they had was awesome. They just didn't put enough effort because they wanted to focus on the multiplayer. And so I see what you're saying, and I think shooters are a big thing because everyone wants to be like Call of Duty, because people know Call of Duty is successful now because of its multiplayer. And they sort of put the campaign aside and said, hey, we're going to go competitive, do this. And everyone tries to copy that model, even if they shouldn't. Like, Homefront should not have done that, because A, it's not going to compete against Call of Duty. No one's going to play Homefront competitively. But you could have made a single-player story that's awesome, that's captivating, that could have put it in a different category. But instead, everyone's trying to do the multiplayer model, and I think it's kind of screwing some games over.
Yeah, I'm with you on that so far, like, all the way. I think one of the things that hurts so much is just, like what you said in the beginning, there's really just more money in the multiplayer aspect and whatnot. Because when you get to esports, especially when you get to like PC stuff, like you can sell computer monitors, you can sell jerseys, you can sell mouse pads, you can sell so many other things when it comes to esports in general. So everybody's like, okay, let's see if we can throw something out there, get an esports following, and go from there. And in reality, not every game can have an esports following. And so because of that, because there's more money in it, and let's face it, when you have publicly traded companies, they're going to want to go where the money is. It's not a bad thing for them. It's just the fact that it leaves out some people who really loved the single player aspect of it that gaming kind of was founded on before that. So this is when I was going to say, one of the ways that you can kind of have a happy medium, though, is when you have co-op games. And I freaking love co-op games, but the sad thing about them is most of the co-op games you have to have local play. So even though I would love to play, like, obviously we've played Overcooked a lot, I would love to play you guys in Overcooked, but there's no servers to play Overcooked. So you can kind of have a medium, but mediums are kind of hard to reach, especially in this kind of thing.
Right.
It's either
I was actually going to mention that because like one of the games that I fell in love with over the summer was Borderlands 2. And that has online co-op, so I didn't even necessarily have to have CJ in the room with me in order to... I would just get on Discord and then chat with him and then also be playing this campaign. And then, so it's still multiplayer, but all it is the campaign, so we're still like focusing on the story, so the story was still good. And it wasn't like any big interruption. But I do wish Overcooked had an online.
Dude,
there
if
is
Overcooked
nothing
had that,
better.
it'd be amazing.
Yeah, there's nothing better than games that have couch co-op and online co-op.
I
Like
love those.
Matt, yeah, because me and Matt were playing Gears of War at, back when we lived together, and then we went home for the summer before we finished the game. So we just switched from couch multiplayer to online multiplayer, and we were able to finish the game together. And I'm like, I love stuff like that because Nintendo got that wrong for so long. I think with the Switch, they're coming around where couch multiplayer used to work, and it works when you're a kid and you live close to all your friends.
Yeah.
But when you're an adult and you live far or it's harder to meet up with people, you almost sort of need online. And I get that nothing beats playing with a friend right next to you, but a lot of people just don't have that option, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why, in that sense, I think online is necessary for multiplayer today to survive, especially because today video games are a lot more adult-oriented than they used to be. Like back in the 80s, it was mostly for kids. But I think today it's, kids and adults alike. And so I feel like online is a necessity if you're going to have multiplayer.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you on that. I mean, some of the most fun that I've played, especially with games just recently, was times where me and Scout would be hanging out one night, and we would just be playing co-op games just, I don't know, before we'd be going out for the night. So we'd be playing games like Contra 3, Overcooked, and Super Mario World, and it was so much fun. We also played like Donkey Kong Country, got beat a couple worlds in that, and we're already considering playing Cuphead, honestly. We'll see how our sanity stays intact after that, but we're just like, these co-op games were extremely, extremely fun, but I mean, like, I feel like in my mind, if you want to try to get the cap, I mean, I know you have to have servers for whatnot, but I would love to see more co-op games like that, and it doesn't even have to be a difficult idea. Overcooked wasn't. Overcooked was simple, and it was fun. It's really, like, it was a simple concept. It was easily accessible to people. You could pick it up and play, and that's all you really had to do, and I loved Overcooked for that. But if it's not like, most multiplayer games, unless, but that's also a kind of thing where it's still a one and done kind of thing. You'll want to move on to the next game afterwards. So it's hard to find that, like, an actual good co-op game, at least in my mind, because I mean, unless it's like Borderlands 2 or like Overcooked or something like that, most of the times they're just not being developed, unless it's by an indie game company. But I mean, like, those might be, like, a good one might be hard to find, and you might have to have a recommendation from somebody to actually get that co-op, a good co-op game from that.
Well, I think that's also because the esports scene, I mean, at this point, I think it's all about competition, People like to see versus stuff, and you don't get that with co-op, Co-op is pretty much the same as single player. There's just another person there, so it just helps with, like, co-commentary.
Just
basically
a little more trolling and messing around.
Right, but to that same end, there's no, like, money in there. There's no esports scene you can get out of that. Like, Borderlands 2 can't be an esport because of its co-op mode, And so I feel like that's why competitive still dominates, because sure, you can have co-op, but with competition, you get the Twitch scene, you get to rent out the arenas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard to beat that.
Sponsors there too.
Right. Exactly.
Which is just crazy, because there's really a big difference in, like, at least for me, when it comes to certain like enjoyment levels from these games. But I mean, I feel like it was just a lot different because we were more, at least I was more raised on the whole single player game kind of aspect there, and so it's kind of hard to see a lot of people moving it away from that. But then now you kind of see things like, first of all, this is a very interesting thing that I was curious to see how it did. I still haven't looked up this too much, but as of around the time recording this, sorry for dating this, Fortnite had an update where they had like 20v20 v20 v20 v20, and that's kind of a mixture of, like, kind of more of a multiplayer thing, but also kind of co-op, because you can play with other people who are, like, friends that you're friends with on, like, PlayStation and, like, on Steam and whatnot. Yeah. So I kind of want to see how that does as well, because
that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it came out like March 8th. So yeah, sorry if it's like an actual date. I'm not, whatever. I messed up. It doesn't really matter. But I want to see how it did, because I would love to see more of a co-op aspect in those kinds of games, because I feel like it has potential for that as well, especially in the Battle Royale genre. Because one of the things that I loved too was in Rock Band, like having like 3 friends just one
Making your own
night
band.
chilling out. Yeah, it doesn't matter how terrible you sound and how bad it is and for how much damage you've been doing on those plastic instruments, how much you piss off your parents, it doesn't matter. I was having the time of my freaking life, and I loved that. I'm sad the fad died so soon.
Yeah. But then to like bring it back around, I think that's why it's hard for single player games, because at least with stuff like Rock Band and stuff, it might get old to you, but then you bring 2 new friends over and now it feels like a brand new experience. Or like with Borderlands, you play the game and beat it, and then you're like, all right, I did it, that's fun. But then you have a friend that comes along and now it's like a different experience. And then you get a different friend and now playing it the 3rd time feels like a different experience. Whereas like a single player game where you can't do that kind of feels the same each time. And I think that's why single player kind of falls behind a little bit, because each playthrough is going to feel the same. Whereas in co-op, you can do different things, play with different people and stuff. And I think, again, that's why we'd say single player seems to have a lot shorter of a lifespan, because you just can't get into that as much.
But I also think that might be why open world games, single players, are kind of the more, norm now, because every time you play that game, you can actually approach it a different way. So that way it does still feel like a new experience. So I know back when we were saying, open world versus linearity, like that's why open world games still will constantly do better, is because it does have much better replay value, because it might have story behind it, it might not, but you at least are able to get that new experience every time you play it, so it doesn't get stale.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. And I think that's one of the main things, because if you replay so many single player games, it is going to feel stale. Multiplayer games, you're having so many different people that you're playing against too. You're most likely facing a lot of different, like a lot more new things as it goes along. So it's, at least for me, I will say I am more of, as I said before, I am more of a single player person, but I do like the fact that there's other multiplayer options out there. It really just, at least in my mind, I would rather see more money that would be able to be poured into the single player market, but it's just not going to happen. There's just like if you get sponsors in the other way, then they're going to be moving their money that way, and they can try to push the stuff that they can sell and they can make money out of it too. So it's sad for companies like it's sad for companies like Square Enix and Atlas, who really do well with those kinds of games, because I feel like they might be left out when companies like Blizzard and Ubisoft and whatnot are just going to charge ahead.
Though luckily Square Enix does have Final Fantasy 11 and 14 that they have been making bank off of, so they do have their MMOs that help them out.
That's true. But so I'm good if you guys are.
Yep.
All right, cool. Thanks everybody for joining us. So what do you guys think, if you're more of a single player or multiplayer person? Or if you have a co-op recommendation, please let me know. Like, honestly, I am looking for more co-op games. So
it might become our next Let's Play. We don't know.
You never know.
Especially if it has online. But anyway, use the comment section below. Let us know what you guys think. If there's certain ones that you prefer, or if there's certain ones that you would, or if there's certain ways that you think the industry could adapt to it. Otherwise, signing off, I'm Nick.
Mike.
And Travis.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Farewell.